Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips, our weekly series on all things challenges that are facing school leaders. I'm Michael Barber, and you're listening to episode number 39, I think it is, of Tuesday Tips. We are welcoming Sangar Safi back to a conversation as a follow up from a webinar we did a few weeks ago on AI and education. And Sangar, we got a few additional questions as a follow up for you from that conversation. But did want to let everybody know as we have a few audience members joining us live. We're here every week on a Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, talking all the challenges that school leaders face for 10 minutes. We try and keep it to 10 minutes, although normally we fail in that goal and end up going 10 to 15 minutes. But we do our best to keep these conversations as impactful and short as possible so school leaders can get on with their day. With that being said, Sangar, the first question we got to follow up from that webinar um, is you talked a lot about sort of the most pressing cybersecurity threats facing educational institutes today. What are some of the sort of the top two, top three, particularly in the context of AI adoption?
I think with the increased adoption of AI in educational setting, concerns include potential misuse of AI system for cyber attacks, data privacy violations, exploitation of vulnerabilities in AI powered educational tools. And I think protecting against these threats require robust cybersecurity measures, employee training, vigilance, and AI system development, deployment, and management.
So some big thorny topics for school leaders to face as it relates to the impact of AI when it comes to cybersecurity, particularly in the context of educators, so teachers and school administrators. One question that we got a follow up related to was cybersecurity awareness and some best practices among students and staff. So do you have some of the maybe top 5 to 6 things or top 3 things that are the best practices when it comes to how do you make sure you're promoting cybersecurity awareness to teachers and to students?
I think educators and school administrators play a crucial role in promoting cybersecurity awareness by integrating cybersecurity education into curriculum, providing regular training sessions for students and staff. It's very vital that they know what to look for, emphasizing the importance of strong passwords and safe online behavior, fostering a culture of vigilance regarding cyber threats. I mean, the threats are everywhere. If training is provided, they'll be able to identify them. Leading by example, I think, is one of the best thing to adapt any practices within organization. Prompting, addressing a security incident. If there's an incident, don't be shy. Make the staff aware regardless of the incident, and encouraging open communication about cybersecurity concern and sharing relevant resources. Very important to have open communication. It's a threat to one, threat to all, and everybody has to be aware if there's a threat impacting an organization.
Yeah, some great tips there as you think about those best practices that school leaders have got to keep in mind when promoting cybersecurity awareness to both their team and students at their schools. Specifically, let's shift the conversation to regulations or compliance frameworks that schools should prioritize when developing their cybersecurity policies. Are there, I know your team focuses specifically on certain states, but are there either state level regulations or compliance frameworks at the national level that schools should prioritize when developing their cybersecurity policies?
Yeah, definitely. Regulation and compliance is becoming a big requirement for any cybersecurity policies to be implemented. There's quite a few of them, especially focused on education. We have FERPA, which stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which protects students' education records privacy. Important to protect their records. And then you have CIPA, which is Children's Internet Protection Act, mandates safety policies and content filtering within an organization. Then you have the usual suspect of HIPAA, which applies to school if they are providing any kind of healthcare services. Then you have PCI, which is a standard one. If a school is collecting credit card information from parents for specific students, it's very important to have PCI compliance in place. The last one that kind of applies to the framework would be the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, NIST. This is a cybersecurity framework. It offers the best practices for cybersecurity risk management. Organizations should be looking at this and adapting this, at least from the cybersecurity perspective, to see what tech stack they need to implement within their organization.
So lots of specific regulations or compliance frameworks that are out there that school leaders have got to be aware of. And of course, thanks for elaborating on those. Given the complexity of the threats themselves and compliance, and how school leaders can leverage both for establishing comprehensive incident response plans. How important is it that schools have got some sort of plan in place to tackle these challenges when they happen?
We're seeing response. Term IR is used, becoming a requirement for many schools and government regulated organizations. IRs play the role of a safety drill for a school. If they're doing a safety drill just to make sure that the students are physically safe, IR are must be implemented within an organization to essentially address and mitigate any cybersecurity threats, minimize potential damage to student staff data and school operations. When a school is hacked, on an average, they're down for 21 days, which is a long period of time. Facilitate coordinated and effective response action during an emergency. What happens when a cyber attack has been implemented within or school by the hackers? What do you need to do, and how it needs to be responded to? You also need to. It also ensures clear roles and responsibility, which is very important in any kind of incident management component. Everybody has to be aware who's doing what, when, how, and why. And a couple of more items are enables communications with stakeholders, including students and parents, and any regulatory authorities. That could include the cybersecurity insurance provider. In some cases, FBI and others. They need to be aware of those. And in an IR, it also supports post-incident analysis to identify vulnerabilities and improve cybersecurity measures in the future. If an incident happens, an IR allows you to kind of future-proof your organization from future cyber threats. You're never going to get away from them, but at least it gives you the best level of protection at that point.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from your answer there is something that we haven't heard or haven't had a lot of conversation on, and that is, rehearsing these incidents is before they happen, right? I mean, we do that for physical disasters. This is more of a virtual disaster if we're going to categorize it appropriately, but can have physical impacts as well. But just like school leaders rehearse for those physical disasters, this is something that school leaders have got to be rehearsing as well. I want to pause before we get to our final question and just mention that if you do have any other questions, we're happy to take them. You just drop them into the chat and we'll do our best to get to those questions. If not, we'll follow up with you afterward to get you an answer. And just mention we're here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, talking all things challenges that school leaders face today. We've got Sangar Safi here talking about specifically cybersecurity threats and how it relates to AI adoption in the classroom. We've got one more question for him, but as mentioned, if you do have questions, let us know in the chat. We'll get to those before we wrap up. Sangar, as you look ahead, what trends do you foresee or your team foresees in cybersecurity and data privacy for the education sector? And if I can ask you a part two on that one, is how should schools prepare for those trends that you and your team are seeing?
Yeah, so I think anticipated trends include heightened cyber threats due to, as we become more digitalized and we're heading more toward remote learning, cyber is going to become a much heightened threat. And when a student is at home, working from home, and learning from home, they're a lot more vulnerable than a physical organization location because the parent or the student may not have robust cyber application implemented at their residence. Schools must prioritize, again, kind of coming back to cybersecurity training, robust encryption, access control to protective sensitive data. Not everybody needs access to everything. Protect the data by giving access to the people who need access to the sensitive info. You also need to implement proactive monitoring, regular audits, collaboration with cybersecurity experts such as software MSP are essential to mitigate risks. Just because you have implemented a tool or application, it doesn't mean you're protected. You always have to be one step ahead of the hackers to ensure that you have the best application in place. Now, the last item is adaptable policies and rapid response plan. We're kind of going back to the response plans are crucial for addressing emerging threats effectively. If you have a good response plan, you're able to identify a threat and mitigate it as quickly as you can.
And just a quick follow-up question: how often should school leaders be looking to mitigate to refresh those plans as it relates to cybersecurity incidents? Is it a quarterly thing? Is it an annual thing? Give us some sense of what other school leaders are doing out there.
I think it should be what we have seen is it's done quarterly on just like a drill, and you can run a phishing simulation just to make sure how aware your staff is on seeing a email from Kohl's or Sephora, and students seeing an email from Roblox. So you want to make sure you run those simulations at all time. And at the end of the year, you should do provide a comprehensive report which pretty much kind of sums up everything you have done the last 4 quarters within an organization. So a quarterly simulation, but sometimes spontaneous, depending on the threat level, is recommended. And we recommend tools that could do automated phishing simulation for an organization based on time and availability. Usually, when the schools are off during summertime, you'll see less. The heightened time is the beginning of the year and most likely the end of the year. So those two time frames are extremely vital that you're 100% prepared.
Such good insights there from, not only just tips and frameworks, but also how often school leaders should be tackling these challenges. Sangar will say thank you for, spending 10 minutes with us on this episode of Tuesday Tips. As mentioned, we're here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, talking challenges that school leaders face. Today, we welcomed in Sangar Safi from Software MSP, who has worked with us on a number of conversations related to cybersecurity and its impact for school leaders and educators out there. We'll be back next week with another topic as well, right here, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And we'll say thanks to Sangar and thanks to everyone for
Thank you.
joining us today. And we'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.